All right. One of the issues is legal and parental rights. So, how do we change children? How do we, for lack of a better term, indoctrinate children? How do we influence children with their parents in the way, basically? So, let's look at some things that are happening with parental rights. Okay, so Mass Resistance is a publication. LGBT movement's other goal: lower the age of consent to 10 years old for psychiatric therapy without parents' knowledge or consent. All right, so this was regarding a bill that was passed the House Committee in the Colorado legislature, and this was in April of 2017. Fresh from the recent victory stopping the LGBT movement's anti-therapy bill in the Colorado legislature, pro-family people are up against an equally frightening bill that has been filed and just passed its first hurdle toward becoming law. It's the latest among similar laws that are being quietly passed across the country. The LGBT lobby is quietly but forcefully pushing for laws to allow children as young as 10 years old to decide they need psychiatric therapy without their parents' knowledge or consent. LGBT allied therapists could push vulnerable children to affirm and accept homosexual and transgender identity and behaviors as normal. This has terrifying implications for parents and families. Children are emotionally defenseless and can easily be persuaded by adults that they need this help from unknown, agenda-driven mental health professionals. It's not clear who pays for these services, but it's assumed that the state funds them. It's also not clear that parents would be allowed access to the resulting medical records. To accommodate these laws, many school-based clinics now offer behavioral health services. The LGBT movement and Planned Parenthood have long been placing youth clinics inside schools to access children away from parental oversight. This past week, a Colorado mass resistance mother called one of the clinics and was told that they can arrange a psychiatrist to meet with the child on site at the school. This scheme dovetails with other, more public LGBT campaign in state legislatures across America to ban counseling and therapy for children who have unwanted homosexual or transgender feelings. So we want to open up counseling without parental consent to those who may be feeling these, but for those who have unwanted homosexual or transgender feelings, we want to ban that counseling. But would allow therapy to affirm homosexuality or transgenderism. Sadly, such a ban would be particularly devastating to children who have been sexually molested. All right, there's more. I'm not reading all of these articles that I'm giving you. This one, SaveJames.com. This I heard this dad being interviewed on. Well, I think I've heard him on a couple of shows, actually. And this started when his son was 3, so he has twin boys. And when his boys were 3, his ex-wife determined that one of them was a girl and started talking to him about being a girl and introducing him to wearing female clothing, gave him a female name, enrolled him in school when he became of school age, enrolled him in school as female. So it says, I'm looking out for the best interest of James, my son. When James is with me, he shows no signs of wanting to be a girl, when given the choice. Even when in female company, away from me, James rejects a female gender expression. This suggests that the diagnosis of gender dysphoria should be reviewed by an independent psychologist. James has never had an independent second opinion. Medical and social intervention should be suspended until James's father can get a good second opinion. James is unaware of long-term consequences of transitioning gender. James has expressed an interest in having children. If subjected to medical interventions, James will be permanently sterilized. James would never be able to have children. Help me save James. So he is he is raising funds to help fight this. He has actually been told by the court system, and this is in Texas, in Dallas, Texas. So he has been told by the court system that he cannot do things like introduce his son as male to anyone that has already been introduced to him as a female. He's been told that he cannot speak to his son about his religious practices because he is Catholic. And, he has been told that he has to attend, he as a father has to attend this one kind of counseling, and that if he doesn't do these things, he will be, it will be considered child abuse, that if he breaks any of these rules. There's a lot more to it, and you can find interviews of him talking about this, but his son is now 7. Like I said, this started when he was 3, and I believe what he was saying is that by age 8 is when they can start administering the drugs to stunt his physical growth as a male. So, and that's, mother is fighting for it, father is fighting against it. So anyway, you can check this out some more on your own. Okay, so this one is a video we're going to watch. And we're just going to watch part of it.
Off for Idaho.
Exactly. And like I said, in other states, we're seeing it happen a lot, even down to sex change operations or abortion, not informing parents. And so, yeah, we're seeing that restriction occurring against parental rights in a lot of states. So we're trying to be proactive and keep that out of Idaho.
So what, you mentioned a few, but what are some of the more disturbing laws that you've seen that really create this problem?
Well, more recently, I mean, you Google anything that has to do with parental rights, and there's actually a lot of stories that come up, but there was one in particular, I don't remember exactly which state it was in, but where a young child, the mother said that this child wasn't the sex it was born with, and they wanted to change that. The father, on the other hand, did not, and so it went into a court case. They actually ruled against the father and said that by him not allowing the child to go through transitioning, that it was going to cause the child mental harm and abuse. Right. And so they denied the father the ability to keep his child the sex that the child was born with.
That's interesting. But the mother was for this. So
the mother was for it, yep. So we're seeing that happening. There's also been cases where the schools have stepped in. A child will say they're transgender, that they want to switch their sex. Sure. The school will actually initiate that for them, start giving the hormone therapy, not even letting the parents know what's going on. So that's taken place in a few states. We're seeing, like I said, the sex ed coming in. And so what's interesting with that is schools will adopt a sex ed curriculum, and they'll present it to the public if it's required. That, this is the curriculum that we've chosen. And so parents think that that's what their child's going to be taught. But what's happening is that the schools are then reaching to outside organizations such as Planned Parenthood to come in and teach the subjects, but it's not the curriculum that they're using or saying that they adopted, because it's an outside entity that they're bringing in with their own curriculum, their own resources that they're bringing into the schools, and parents have no idea that that's going on.
So, and how is the curriculum that's promised different from the curriculum that's affected?
Because there's no control over it, so Planned Parenthood can just bring in whatever they want to teach, and bring that into the school, and the school board already approved the curriculum that's supposed to be used, well, they don't use it at all, or they'll use just little bits of it. But that's what parents are thinking that their children are being taught, when that's not what's happening at all.
But it's actually a completely different message.
Yep, whole different curriculum, whole different program. Parents are under the impression that this, that we're teaching kids this, and this. And if this, and this is not being taught, and it's being taught, there's something else being taught, parents should know and have that option to be able to say, yes, I want my child to learn this, or no. In Idaho, we actually tried to work on last session a opt-in to sex ed instead of an opt-out. It's required that they have this program be taught to them, but we wanted to give parents the option to where they could actually just opt their kids in instead of having to try to opt them out. And we see California, some of the bigger states, where they're not even allowing the option for parents to be able to choose if their kids participate in certain programs or not. They're mandating it. And that's a whole other issue, because you shouldn't be mandating any type of curriculum or program into the schools. They should be an optional program or an optional ability, because once you make them law, then that's exactly what you're supposed to be teaching. And if that changes down the road, then if you're not teaching it, you're breaking the law in essence. So
No, that's interesting. But surely, in general, there's a curriculum that's agreed upon that roughly students need to learn, right?
In my school district, the way it's supposed to work is if there's a program that's going to be adopted or a new curriculum, then it's supposed to be placed out there for the public to be able to view and to review and to give information and input on it. And they're sidestepping that process in many, many ways and going through backdoor approaches, almost circumventing the legislature or the local school boards and going straight into the State Department of Ed or into the schools themselves and placing these programs in without any input or public opinion.
So, and is this driven ideologically because people want a certain curriculum and they don't think that the parents would agree, or why would they do this?
Yeah, usually it's because the program that they're wanting to bring in really go against a lot of the values and beliefs that most of the parents and most of the public have. And so when you're in a district like mine that's very conservative and you're trying to bring in some sort of crazy sex ed program where they're practicing what they're learning, people are not going to go for that overall. They're going to say, no, that's way too much. That should be taught at home. That's not something for the school to be involved in. But there's outside larger organizations that's what they want to bring into the schools and utilize.
Okay, so later on in that video, she actually makes reference to the fact that there are 15 or fewer states that actually have parental rights laws.